everyone, and welcome to yet another vlog that I meant to put up about 2 months ago, but I'm just now getting around to finishing it. This is another travel vlog from over the summer, and this time I went to Salt Lake City, Utah for the first time to visit one of my friends, Sarah. And Sarah is someone who I met when I studied in Seville, Spain for a semester in college. We became good friends like really quickly. We did a lot of traveling together and we just had a great time. And it's been 4 years since I had seen her, so obviously we were long overdue for a reunion. So I'm just gonna talk about some of the fun stuff that we did because it was a very jam-packed and very active week, and I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty exhausted by the end of it by the time I got home. Okay, so on day one, we pretty much jumped right into the outdoorsy activities because I guess that's just what you do when you're in Utah. So Sarah and I started off going on a little hike to a place called Canaryville Falls. And I know for a fact that Sarah is way more outdoorsy than I am because she made this seem like it was just gonna be like a leisurely walk. When in fact we ended up climbing over rocks and dirt, and I most definitely wore the wrong shoes, but it was still really cool and very serene and beautiful.
So I'm with Sarah, and we just hiked all the way up. Falls. Yeah, it's beautiful. This to Sarah is like an easy hike. For me, this is like, Sarah! And I definitely wore the wrong shoes, but it's so pretty. Oh my gosh.
You did it!
Woo!
What up, Canaryville Falls?
There's a bee!
Then we went to a concert in a local park and this band called Foreign Figures was playing. It was a really good concert, and then afterwards there were fireworks, which was the perfect way to end the night. Then the next day we drove to St. George, Utah along with Sarah's sister Bryn, and yeah, honestly, the first 3 days of this trip were just straight up hiking. But on this day, we hiked a spot called Canaryville Falls, which was seriously so cool and definitely unlike any other hike that I've ever done. We basically were hiking through water for like a good portion of it, and then we passed through like these narrow canyons and waterfalls and giant red rocks, and it was just so pretty. I did make it through about 90% of the hike without slipping and falling on my butt, so pretty proud of myself for that one. So on day 3, we went to Zion National Park, and we ended up doing a hike through the Narrows, which is actually pretty similar to the hike that we did from the day before, where we are hiking through like water and like kind of more narrow canyons. But this one was less climbing and more of what I would just describe as like an intense walk through water and kind of slippery rocks. To be honest, it was a little stressful trying not to twist my ankle and slip and fall into the water. And I'm pretty sure we were all like really exhausted by the end of it, but it was still really cool. Then the next day we drove back to Salt Lake City and we decided to do a little bit of a photo shoot, which didn't exactly turn out how we expected. We originally wanted to go to this place called the Bonneville Salt Flats, which is literally just miles and miles of solid white salt. So we drove for a few hours, and when we got there, it was like so insanely windy that we couldn't even open the car doors.
It's so pretty. It is so pretty.
So we were gonna give up on our plan to do a photo shoot, but then on our drive back home, we actually ended up passing by this really serene, really pretty spot that was literally just on the side of the highway. So we pulled over, parked on the side of the road, and continued our photo shoot there. And thankfully there was like no wind, so A+ for that.
Yeah, so I forgot to mention that if you walk too far, you'll literally sink into the salt because it's literally all... Oh my god, I almost just... Rude.
Okay, so day 5 was the day that I was seriously so excited for because we ended up doing a road trip to Yellowstone National Park. I'm honestly so grateful that I got to do not 1, but 2 national parks on this trip. So we woke up bright and early and started our 6-hour drive, and I'm pretty sure we passed through at least 3 states to get to Yellowstone. So we passed through Idaho, Montana, and then eventually ended up in the portion of Yellowstone that is in Wyoming, aka the Wild Wild West. I'm gonna insert a little bit of a montage here because we ended up covering a lot in one day. we did a lot of driving that day, but it was just so cool seeing like random wild animals walking around. We even saw a buffalo on the side of the road. Unfortunately, it was my turn to drive and there were cars behind me and I didn't have time to grab my camera to film it. However, it just so happens that one of the gift shops we stopped into had a giant life-size moving buffalo head. So there's an idea of what it looked like. Okay, so day 6 was the day that I finally got to see the actual city part of Salt Lake City. And one of the things that I first noticed was just how clean and well-maintained everything is. It's also super pretty at night too, which is great. So the next day was sadly the day that I left to go back home. But of course, since this was a week just jam-packed full of activities, we managed to fit in a game of tennis before I left. And of course, I was the least skilled one out of everyone.
Oh, it is so good. So good.
Do it.
Ah!
I probably would have just kept Jeff rolling.
Was that one?
That was out. Yes, Gabby?
Yes.
That was it.
Woo!
But anyway, that was my trip to Utah, and yes, I was pretty exhausted by the time I got home, but it was seriously such a memorable trip, and I'm just so glad that I finally got to see Sarah after 4 years of being apart. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!